amount of fun that it can deliver. And this hype about it, well, that hype is real.
Bythjul.com. Däck och fälgar online direkt hem till din dörr eller närmaste verkstad.
Now, I can't remember having this much fun in a car since I don't know when. This car just makes me feel so much alive in so many different levels. On the track, on the road, being comfortable, just cruising around. Maybe not being the most effective when it comes to electric cars because it doesn't have the very best range and the very best consumption. But if you want to talk about that, well, then go look for another car or the normal Ioniq 5 because this is labeled with their performance label, the N badge. And this is their latest recipe and it's just so good. An electric performance car. The other N performance cars like the i20N, the i30N, which I owned for a couple of years. Love that car, unfiltered, very raw, a bit hard for the road, but it was really, really fun. And also the Kona N, a little higher crossover SUV type of performance car. And I remember that in my i30N, you could set the damping, the steering response, the throttle response, the engine, and everything in so many different configurations that you almost got dizzy. And talking about dizzy, step into this one and you got tons of configurations. And it is a bit overwhelming in the beginning, setting all these types of stuff, which is also labeled with N, like N race, N pedal, N active sound, N shifting, and whatnot. So the label N can stand for nerd in this car, but if you want to have fun and you need to be a nerd, well, then you can call me a nerd, because this is just amazing, this car. Since N came into the Hyundai family as a performance label, well, it changed everything. They just became fun. They gave a sense of humor and at the same time hardcore performance. Even though they're just front-wheel driven, these other ones. I've owned an i30N, so I know what it's all about. Maybe some of the competitors are a little better, but that one, it was just so unfiltered. It just felt raw, it was bone hard, and you can set it in so many settings of how you wanted it to act. So it was a really focused track car, or a car for the B-roads when you really want to push it. But this triumphs them all. This is a package like no other. And if they want to level up on humor, they've really done that. But they've also leveled up a real great deal when it comes to performance and real sophistication of technology. This is just mind-blowing. So I won't be talking about any consumption figures or how long you can get on one full charge. That's not what this car is about. This car is about setting it in the sportiest setting and using all this technology to just swing it around. And that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna enjoy this one on our way to the track. Because on the track, that is where this car shines more than many others. But if you drive along on the road, this is just a comfortable, quiet, good cruiser. The seats, which are very, very sporty, they feel just great. And I mean, just put it in echo and you can turn off these sounds if you don't want them, and it's just perfect. There is so much done in the performance segment of this car. It's been strengthened up, it's got N paddle, it's got N race, N torque distribution, N optimizer, and you name it. And you can set them in so many different configurations. 11 steps in this N torque distribution. And I always set it in 80-20 or something because I want 80 on the back. But if you want to drift it a bit more, well, put it 100 on the back. And it becomes real fun. And there's also an N drift optimizer. We'll test that on the track. And then there's this custom setting. You just put them into N mode here. And what do you get? Well, you get this cool sound and also real physical gears. I mean, if you're in a high gear and you push it, well, nothing happens. So you need to change down. And it cuts the momentum and works like a real fast shifting gearbox. That is fun. And that is something that you shouldn't underestimate. It's not just a gimmick. It's not just for being fun. Because if you want to get from a fossil-driven engine into an electric car and not getting that ferocious torque all at once every time, Well, you can gradually get into this one when you drive on the track, doing short shifts, keeping one gear, and keeping the right momentum when you get out a bend or a corner. That is brilliant. It weighs about 2,200 kilos, so it is heavy for being, not that big of a car. It is rather wide, it is rather high, so it is almost like a SUV crossover car, but it feels like a hatchback. But I like this very great, big, imposing style that it's got. And I just love the look of it. It looks futuristic, like it was sketched back in the 60s, 70s or something, of how they thought that a futuristic car should look in its design. And we don't need to talk about that much of the design. You know how it looks because it's super hyped. But the hype in this case, it's real. You might think that all these sounds that are created are just nonsense, and that is just something to elevate the feeling of driving a electric car, because it's not the same charm as in a fossil-driven engine. But it really makes sense in this one. When you start shifting it, well, it's like real gear shifts. And when driving on the track, needing to short shift or stay in one gear through a bend or a corner or a hairpin, well, that is just perfect because you don't get all that momentum thrown at you at the same time. It limits it a bit, and that is really good to be quick. So you can transcend from a fossil-driven car into an electric car in a more gradual, progressive way, which is smart. Even though I like when you get all the power at once and you can set that end torque distribution however you want in 11 steps, all to the front or all to the back or somewhere in between. It serves up so many personal driving styles, and that is just something that one should love. So 2 electric engines, one at the back, one at the front. 226 horsepower at the front and 383 horsepower at the back. So it serves up to 609 horsepower, but you also got a NGB button, N-Grin Boost. And if you push that button, it releases 650 horsepower for 10 seconds. And you can also calibrate the launch control system by setting it in 3 different grip levels. And if you want to take it for a real spin, then you got the N-Drift Optimizer. I also have this color on my i30N. It's the Performance Blue, but this one is in matte. You can get it in a solid, more glossy look as well. But this one, it suits the car real nice together with this black glossy panels, side skirts, and these big rims. So with all this power, well, you do 0 to 100 quite quick. 3.4 seconds, and it goes all the way up to 261 kilometers an hour. Boot space is not the biggest, so the range in this one, well, that's irrelevant, even though you can reach 440 kilometers combined in the VLTP cycle. That's what it says. But it's got a very powerful battery. It's got 400/800 volt technology. And this one is so powerful that you can charge it up from 10 to 80 in about 18 to 20 minutes at a fast charging station. Bigger, more powerful brakes, 400 millimeters at the front, 360 millimeters at the back, 21-inch rims, real big ones, and they really show it on this. And they don't fade that easily. And that is something that is so important on heavy cars. But I can't really understand how it feels so light when you drive it. You can feel that when braking from higher speeds. Yeah, sure, that's where that physics come in with high weight. But this one stops extremely well. And these tires, they get the temperature in them and they stick like glue. But the most impressive thing is how it takes corners. This is not just for laughter. This is not just for fun with all that, if you want to call it, gimmicks. Because the gimmicks, they work and they keep you focused. And being focused in this car, well, it can take on so many supercars. And that is something that I find really, really interesting with this car. Driving it hard on the B roads, well, it is just like a small car. Even though it feels big, it is rather big, it feels nimble and small. And you can take it through hairpins and very consecutive corners in such a graceful way. And we will also drive it on track. And that's where the N pedal and the N race comes in. You can drive this on track and it cools the battery in different levels. If you want to drive for longer on the track, well, you can set it in one setting. Or if you drive a hot lap, a shorter one, well, you can set it for that maximum power. The drive axles are also strengthened. They come from the VRC, the World Rally Championships, and you can feel that because when driving in corners, it feels like a real rally car in some way. And putting that torque distribution how you want it, put everything to the back, have 80 at the back, 20 at the front, or 70-30, well, that is just perfect for perfect grip with all this power. It also has another fun feature, which is called N-Road Sense. So the sensor at the front detects if there is a sign on the road showing that there is a curvy road ahead, and then it optimizes the car for that type of drive. That is really fun. So don't just take it for all the giggles that it offers. This is a serious performance car when you really want it to. And you also got the N-pedal function. Lifting off quick, well, it starts to brake. Getting on the throttle, well, it ignites it much, much quicker. So that is very good for being immediate on the track. And I mean, being immediate, an electric car with all that momentum, 700 Newton meters, and the batteries that spins up to 21,000 RPM. And what I love about Kias and Hyundais are that the packages, when buying them, well, they're not that many. You just specify them with 1 or 2 packs and it's done. It's not adding on a lot of stuff. And this one, well, it's like one package. 834,900 Swedish crowns for this one here. You can set everything here in custom mode if you want. So we got 3 steps for the engine, 3 steps for the steering. Put that all in Sport Plus. Let's just have it there. And you can feel how it stiffens up when you put the suspension to Sport Plus. ELSD, and then you can also activate launch control if you want to do that. And when you get into launch control, you can also set the type of grip that you want, from low, medium, up to high. So it doesn't spin off that much, it bugs down a little, but it gets the grip perfectly. Then you got the N-active sound, which is, okay, rather fun. You can get into this one, listen to this. With this manual gear shift, and there is a pop to it as well. Is that ridiculous or is it fun? Well, choose. And it's fun for the onlookers from the outside. They will hear it because there is an external speaker that plays all this synthetic sound. Then we have the sound evolution. And it gives a very hard kick when you change the gears. This control through the bends, it is amazing. These 2,200 kilos, you don't feel them. You feel them when you brake from high speed. But even the brakes, they are bigger and a lot stronger. You also got a function which is called N-pedal, and that is really good on the track or even some demanding B roads. When you get into that one, it senses how quickly you step off the throttle, how quickly you get on it, and the same with the brakes. And you can really feel that. When you let off, well, it brakes very quickly. And it's very sensitive when you throttle away, of course. And the brake as well. It's almost like you don't even need to touch it before it grabs these bigger brakes. Phenomenal.
And let's have a go with it and set a lap time here at Gillinge Test Track. The Ioniq 5N is extremely enjoyable and very track focused, and the time speaks for itself. This is a very good lap time for a car that weighs over 2 tons. And now let's try out the Drift Optimizer.
Everything feels so simple but very track focused in here. I just love it. It's so perfectly laid out with everything. You have some physical buttons. You got some touches here. They display on the screen as you get into Klima, or when you touch some of the home, map, search, seek, track, media, setup buttons, which are physical, and also, you know, volume knob. Just great. Look at everything here. Nothing is hidden. You have perfect vision over everything. It has a little round look to it. These door handles, a bit round but very grippable. The electric window switches here, also a bit round but good to the feel. Induction charger here, very nice. And also here, the sides, you got some bolsters, which, you know, are a bit stuffed. So you don't hit your knee when the G-forces become too strong. That is also a very nice treat. Some USB chargers everywhere here, cup holders, these are very smart. You push and it holds it. Otherwise, you've got very great storage here. A little storage there in the armrest. Scrapey plastics, of course, here and there, but some nice rubbery feel to it all around that just makes it feel premium in a medium to high level, in my opinion. I love this material because I don't think it needs to be that posh. This is very simple, this is very nice. And seats, as they're called, you sit so perfect in them. And the thing is that all these seats in many cars nowadays, even though they're called like cup seats or something, you know, like these thin seats that really puts you in a racy position and a racy feel, they are not that racy hard anymore. They have become really, really comfortable. The stuffing is good, the side bolsters are good, even though they're rather hard, so they keep you in place. And the base seat here is just great. You can move about a little and you are just kept in place. Also here, not being too hard in the sides. This one is illuminated, the N. They are just good looking. And I just think they're perfect when driving for a little longer in, you know, like a normal mode when not just thrashing it all the time. Good storage, very practical. It is just like a normal Ioniq 5, but it has a bit more racy attitude to it here, of course. You got the blue stitching all around in the seats, on the center console, a little blue line here in front of the passenger. But most important is the steering wheel. Very aggressive, and when looking at it, well, it feels very racy. It feels like coming from a race car with all the buttons and settings. And it is, in the beginning, a bit hard to understand. You need to dig into it. And you can set it into 2 custom modes if you want to have it for regular driving, you know, setting the dampers to a more soft setting, and still having the engine in Sport Plus, the gearing in Sport, and the steering in Sport. You can set it in so many ways in this car. So this screen, well, I'm rather familiar with it. It feels like in my Kia. It's rather intuitive. This is much quicker than the Kia that I've got. Faster processor. A big, nice screen. You see it all. You get into all these type of widgets here. Get into electric car, you can see your range, your consumption, and also very easy to unclick the driver assisted functions. And getting into Klima, well, you get the seat displayed here. You can see how hot you want it to be. You can get heat in your seats through this. You can get ventilation. But then it's got the N mode here, this buffet or menu on how to calibrate and set everything. You got the N torque distribution. You get a little warning as that comes up. So you need to get into the more sporty modes to set some of all of this. And this is where it becomes a little tricky. But if you've taken this onto the track, well, I figure that you've been sitting in this car really figuring it out and setting your custom mode for your perfect race day. So I just find it fun. Nerdy, but fun and interesting. So now we're in the sport mode. We can set it to N torque distribution. We'll get into that. And then we can set it in those different steps. All the power to the back, or all the power to the front wheels, or everything in between. N pedal, set that. N race, set that. It is fun. You get everything displayed here, a very sporty focused cluster. You can see the battery temperature here on your left. You can also get the revs on the right. You get some dots here on how hard you've got the setting for your engine, your steering, the head-up display, and the NAS, the N acoustic sound. So you got ignition, and you can be in a standstill and just sit here, rev it with some pops and bangs. Well, it is rather fun. You got evolution, futuristic sound, and then supersonic. And activating the N shift and working through the gears, which they are gears somewhat, because they cut the momentum. So if you're in 5th gear and you pull full throttle and like say 30-40 kilometers an hour, it bugs down a bit. So you need to downshift. Is that fun? Well, I think it's fun, but I don't know for how long. And you got the launch control. You can set that road grip level high, medium, or low, depending on what type of surface you're on or how good that grip is. And there is a lap timer here as well. So plenty of stuff to play around with. I like how this whole stalk is mounted and you just switch the outer part when you want to get into gears, like that one. And these look good. As I said, they have a bit more round design to them. And when driving in normal mode, these paddles, well, they adjust the regen setting from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it's called I pedal, so that is max. And that becomes like a 1-pedal drive. So a little confusing in the beginning when really want to getting into it, but what do you pay for? Well, you pay for a very technological package. And of course, that is value for money. Having fun and not getting bored. So I think it's worth its money. There's a lot of technologies in here and a lot of technologies for that driving pleasure. And that's what this car is all about. So, you know, that is a bit difficult in the beginning, but that doesn't matter. You have time. You want to have a car that is a bit demanding and that can set that perfect setting for you as a driver. I mean, that's splendid. So let's just have a look at the launch control. Kick down, launch control, and green boost. Oh yeah, and 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is dealt with in 3.4 seconds. The top speed is 260 kilometers an hour. But on these small curvy roads, this is just an incredible machine. 2,000 kilos plus. It's rather amazing what it can do. And together with the different sounds, well, of course it becomes fun. I mean, this one is just in the same league as the Porsche Taycan GTS, in my opinion. That one is bigger, this one feels a bit more tight, even though this is rather wide. And 2,000 kilos, well, that is nothing that you just fool around with. You need to know where your points are when braking, when steering in, and how fast you can get into a corner. But this one has so much confidence, and that confidence that the car has, well, it really gets your confidence going as well. So it is just one superb machine, this one. The position of how you sit in it, the grip of the steering wheel, this N green boost, extra power, it is just mind-blowing. Wow, and the brakes. This one is just fun throughout its bones. Wow. And these two electric motors, well, they rev up all the way to 21,000 RPM, so that is a lot. That creates a lot of torque, 700 Newton meters. Immediately at your disposal. Of course, all that torque is good when you want to drift. Like the handles that stick out. But one impressive thing with this Ioniq 5 is the amount of space in the back. It feels like you sit a bit high. The floor is a bit high, so your knees, well, they are set rather high in its position. You can stretch out a bit, but plenty of room. You would like to have some more support under here, but I like that you can adjust the rear seats so you get into a more relaxing position. But it's good that it's not that cramped back here. You can observe these nice seats in front of you, the racy ones. Cup holders here, armrest here, It's not a big of a boot back there, but you can fold this 60-40 or completely. And you got heated seats in the back. That is thankful. Very easy to maneuver. This one here is just an arm's length and not being able to, like lean forward. And you got two USB outlets there. And a little curtain here if the sun is shining a lot. Now a good back seat which you can sit some adults in. And the kids, they will just be happy. You got ISOFIX if you want to put in a baby seat. It's rather open in here. Great place to sit. But the place that you want to sit, well, that's in the driver's seat. Now this car is so much fun, and this really pulls you into an electric car again in that way that you drive some really, really good EVs, the Porsche Taycan GTS. When I drove that, it was just like, I can't feel this weight. It's just so perfect in its steering and it's everything. And then you drive some fossil-driven engines, performance cars, which are much lower in weight, and it feels like, well, with the fast shifting gears, enough momentum, a lot of horsepower, well, isn't this really the thing? And then you get to sit in one of these. This new Ioniq 5N, it just puts you back in place in an electric way. And this sound, well, it does it all because it gives you the senses of driving, something of a fossil-driven engine. And the senses of all this sound together with this power and the precision. It just feels like a very small, light, nimble car. That is just something that I can't really grasp. It is fantastic. This steering, this brake, this one is just phenomenal. I love it. I love it in so many ways.